We're back.
We're back in town, kids.
Oh my God.
We're back.
So thanks for being patient while we have our break. That's my bad.
Yeah, it's a long summer break. It was a lengthy sojourn. Thanks to Annabel, who has been bent over in her garden for the last 8 weeks.
I even thought that I was gonna be okay, summer break, we'll just take like 4 weeks off.
Yeah, because to me, summer break is like maybe 2 or 3 weeks, just a little
No, I meant from like summer till autumn equinox.
You meant an entire season was going to pass.
Yeah, no, I meant like the whole summer is going to be a break.
Right. Well, it was. So here we are.
I just needed to be feral, and I was feral all summer. I didn't wear shoes, I didn't wear knickers, I just barely wore clothes, I didn't brush my hair. It was amazing.
Have you put a bra on for us?
I am wearing one today, and I'm wearing like a lacy bra rather than just like my granny bra, which is what I prefer to wear.
I put a lacy bra on as well. I feel like it's a special occasion.
Sometimes it just helps.
It does help. It makes you feel cheeky inside. Wow. So I'm so happy to see you.
I'm happy to see you. How was your summer break? You didn't really you just had a break from us. You didn't have a break from anything else.
Literally nothing else. My break from you was, there were ups and downs. I went.
You were really struggling at the beginning.
I really. Yeah. Do you remember I sent you a few tearful messages, which it took you a few days to get back to, but
why you fucking sent me the most savage message that was so sad, and I listened to it, and I didn't listen to it for 10 days, and then I listened to it, and I said to Alec, I was like, oh my God, Lucy's just sent me the most like heartfelt, fucking tragic, sad message, and I haven't listened to it for 10 days. But then in a way I was like, maybe that was good.
Yeah,
anyway, carry on.
It helped me work on my codependency issues.
Yeah, because you were really struggling, and then it was just like I was quiet.
I know. It was perfect.
It wasn't. No, I'm sorry. That was horrible, and actually did teach me a good lesson.
Well, it taught me a good lesson too.
No, it's not good.
Never open up to the people you love, because they'll just hurt you. Up. No, yeah, it was really good for me too. Honestly, I'm all jokes aside, I'm glad we did that. That perspective after we'd been going for 2 years was really nice, and it was just a nice pause, focused on other things, thought about, I've been doing a lot of self work, all that kind of stuff, really making a lot of great breakthroughs in some good ways. And now we're back, and I feel fresh, and I feel excited to share everything that we've unfolded into the last couple months.
Yeah, I feel like I've lived like 3 lifetimes in the last 2 months.
Yeah, me too.
So crazy.
I know.
Wow. Well, we've got plenty of time to get into that.
Yeah, we will hear about it all. I want to hear all about the move and the new beautiful abode and the travels you've been having, and the fascinating stuff you were telling me about your garden, which I know everybody's going to enjoy hearing about. It is very interesting what you said. Yeah.
I moved to Victorian gardener's cottage on a big estate, and I basically am just living the life that I've always wanted to live.
Yeah.
And it feels really nice. It feels really, really good. And it's not complicated. It's not like I was like, I want a mansion and a Lamborghini and a pool. And it's like, no, I just want to live in a shabby little cottage in the woods, away from everything, in nature, and start again. And so that is what I've been doing. I've been starting again, and it's been rough at times. Starting from scratch is really interesting. Feels amazing, and you're like, yeah, blank canvas, woohoo. And then there are days where I'm like, I don't know who I am.
It was that way when I left the situation that we're going to be talking about today. It's terrifying, and there's days where you're devastated because you're going, I have no idea how to do this. But you've been taking it slow, and you are in a place that makes you really happy.
Learning to be alone and stand on my own 2 feet, like in a really meaningful way, and just kind of I can't live at Sarah's forever,
right?
And I need to start my own life now, after the crash, after being with my family in Santa Barbara. What's the life I want to live? And then that's nice, it's a dream, it's exciting, and then you're in it and you're like, fucking hell. And then, so what I've really been focusing on is learning to, I really want to get to a place where I can be joyfully and peacefully alone, standing on my own 2 feet, knowing that I do not need anyone. And I know that sounds weird, but we all need people. We all need friends. We all need love. We all need touch. We all need those things. But to know that you can self-soothe, that you can provide for yourself, that you can get through a hard day, that you can spend prolonged periods of time alone, which I haven't done yet. I still haven't spent a night alone since everything. That's where I want to work to, just being like good and content alone.
Wow.
And my family here are lovely. I love them to pieces. They are not very supportive, and not in a mean way, just in a, they don't know how. It's kind of outside of their toolkit. And I think that's what's like kicked this into place, is that I was viewing it as like a homecoming, which it is, but it is also a new beginning, and I have to make new friends, I have to make new systems and routines, and where's the new shop that I want to go to, and where's the new dance studio, and it's like a total new structure, and I have to do that alone. And obviously I'm with Alec is here, and so I'm not like physically alone, but I can't rely on one person for everything. I'm a strong believer that one person cannot be everything to you.
No, they can't.
And I think that it's a lot to ask of a partner to like have sex with you, be your partner, have dinner, listen to you when you're like having a freak out, and then also be your number one like spiritual companion, your number one this companion, your number one grief therapist, your number one, one person cannot be everything.
No. If it's anything I've learned in 2 years of marriage, it's that.
So that's kind of been my vibe, really.
I understand what you're saying, that you want to ultimately get to that place where you're standing alone. You've described, and I've seen you go through this, where you have had to depend on others for so much of the process since the crash. And we've talked about that a lot, where you've had to depend on, at one point you had to depend on others to feed you. and make you go to bed and get your clothes on, which was really hard for you. I mean, that's not.
It's so crazy. It's crazy to even think of now. But yeah, that was the case. Yeah.
That's uncomfortable for anybody to have to go to. So through this process, you've gone through these extreme ranges of total dependence on others to now being able to stand on your own 2 feet and feeling ready to do that again. So it's really a full circle.
And I'm not saying make yourself an island or make myself an island.
It's just be okay with no outside anything. Just be okay within.
Yeah. And no one can be all the time. No, and that's the thing, is like knowing when to go, like, oh, I need help right now, or things aren't so hot, or whatever it is. And that's part of the whole process, basically. Exactly. It's like, can I self-soothe in this moment? Should I go and stay with some friends? Do I need to, get out a bit more? I don't know. All of that stuff. And it will be an ongoing process. I'm at the very tippity top of it. So we'll see. But you've been through such a lot since we were last recording. And well, when we were recording the article about your acting group that you were in, that was the narcissistic abuse high control group, had come out, but it was very intense time for you, and you weren't exactly ready to go there yet. I think it seemed like you were so inundated with it being out in the open and this tension release, and you were having night terrors, and you were really processing so much that talking about it felt like almost impossible.
And I actually came to England, and I was with you when it came out. And I thought that would be, it was the right thing to do. It was wonderful. You and I had such a good time together, and we were together for the Queen's Jubilee, which I'm so grateful for, that right before her passing. That was amazing. But it wasn't the trip I expected it to be. I thought that it would just be peaceful and I could forget about everything and just let that tidal wave go past me. But I got hit by that tidal wave instead.
So, you were in the trenches.
I was having these PTSD dreams every night, which have not stopped. It's really frustrating, but I'm doing work on it, and I'm in counseling and getting some really good help for it all. But that's been really intense and very unexpected. You just can't, you don't know what to expect until it happens. And to say it plainly, ladies and gents, the thing that I was alluding to since the beginning of the podcast really was that for 10 years, I was in an acting class, which was led by what I've come to know after tons of research and connecting with other people who have been through the same thing, was led by a narcissistic abuser. The class was a high control group, and it's a very documented thing. It's a very real thing and happens to many people in different forms. High control group, and it was within the cult of Scientology. So it was triple tiered for me, the abuse that I was experiencing. And I was there for 10 years. And I left in 2020. And recently, the Hollywood Reporter reached out to me and told me that there was an article being done. And they asked if I would speak on the record about my experience and what I witnessed happen to other people. And this is abuse that's gone on for 30 years. I thought about it a lot. And I decided that I wanted to speak on the record, and that was important to me because she's still teaching.
And abusing.
and abusing, and she's hurt a lot of people. The abuse spans financial, physical, sexual in a strange way, emotional, psychological, mental, all of that. It checks every box. And the Hollywood Reporter printed about 2% of how bad it really is. So today we're going to talk about the other 98% that they didn't put in that magazine. And I'll share some of the articles.
Or however much you have the energy, that maybe it might be, you're convinced this is going to be one episode, whereas I feel like this is not going to just be one episode. But so why do you think of the 150 victims that they could find, that's just the people that they could find to speak to, why do you think people
I mean, there have been thousands. There have been thousands. Why do I think people are scared to talk?
Are they scared of her? Are they scared of appearing weak? Are they scared of their reputation? Are they?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us can relate to abuse in whatever form it's taken in our own lives.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people know the answer to that if they think about it. I think coming forward to speak about something that's happened to you like that is really scary on a lot of levels. I think you're afraid of, people are afraid of the abuser still. People are afraid of what their friends and family will think. People are afraid of what society will say to them. People in my business are afraid that they'll never work again as actors, which she threatens that when you leave her, that you'll never work again.
She's so irrelevant though. She's so like, I mean, now you're out of it, you can see that she's Jurassic.
I know, it's a joke. It's a joke. And I was reading the article again last night to prepare reading you some bits today, and I was dying laughing because I was like, this is insane.
I have this because it's the notes. I don't want to, my microphone's so sensitive that like if I tap on the screen, it's going to go like through the mic. So this is the notes, just FYI.
Jesus Christ, I can't believe.
No, I'm just saying I'm not like okay, yeah. just pure disrespecting your like traumatizing situation that you're in.
When I was in England, I was going through the tidal wave of the article coming out, and I didn't have any perspective on it, and it was really intense to me and brought up a lot, because in doing the article, it was not easy to do this. I had to go back into thinking about a lot of things that I was trying to forget. And that's the confusing thing about abuse, is that part of you wants to help others and talk about it and use what you've been through as an example to help other people and to teach in that way. And the other part of you wants to forget everything and move on with your life. So what I've found is that it becomes both at the same time, because now that I've had some perspective on it, I can talk about it in an educational way instead of feeling so upset by things that were excruciating to go through. So it's the perfect time for us to share this with everybody. And this is an important conversation to continue. I'm really proud to do any kind of advocacy work that I can on this topic. And it's a good thing that I have experienced it firsthand, because I damn well know what I'm talking about now. And many people are still in these kinds of situations and not quite sure if they're maybe crazy, or if they're weird, or they feel so isolated. But you are not alone. You're not crazy. This shit is real. Go research it and go connect with other people who've been through it too, because you gotta get away. Get out. This has been the last 12 years of my life, because I've been out 2 years now. And so in many ways, I am at the beginning again, just as you are. So it's no accident that you and I came together when we did in life to go on this journey together. I'm going to start with my statement that I put out on social media about this shenanigan. I said, when I was first made aware of this article happening, I felt many emotions. I was under Gloria Gifford's abuse within her high control group, posing as an acting class associated with the cult of Scientology for 10 years. I'm proud that I escaped in 2020 and have since reclaimed my life and self, never to silently endure abuse myself or stand by abuse of anyone around me ever again. So it was emotional to learn that the Hollywood Reporter, which is the top publication in our industry, feels the same. They have made it their business and their cover story to expose this issue of physical, financial, and mental abuse by this acting coach, Gloria Gifford, which has gone unchecked for 30 years with hundreds of people. I decided to tell the truth on the record for one simple reason: to stop this abuser and others like her under the guise of teaching from being able to harm any more people. The magazine has printed only 2% of the severity of this situation and our experiences, but hey, that's the media for you. The truth will continue to come out, and it is supported by many witnesses and hard evidence. I'm really glad that Gloria answered in the ways that she did, proudly admitting to the abuse, trying to discredit, smear, and degrade us, never apologizing once, using every excuse imaginable, including race, age, and illness. I've heard from so many people already that the truth is made crystal clear because of her answers. I'm so proud of all of us who have told the truth on the record. I'm so proud of my testimony. I'm proud of my past, my experience, my recovery and healing, and my future. I have compassion for the many people in this situation who were too afraid to speak on the record, of which I learned there are many. And my heart goes out to my loved friends still in her class who are either too afraid to leave or are too far gone to see clearly. Surviving this abuser taught me the true meaning of freedom and self-governance. It changed me forever. I will never forsake my own truth again. I will always use my voice, for if I can help one person avoid what I experienced here, I'm grateful. This type of abuse costs people their lives. So that's what I had to say about it.
Did you get any response from her personally, or any response from people in the group on that?
I did. I have been through a lot of harassment from people close to her. I've been told I'm all kinds of things. I've been called all kinds of things, which is common for survivors when they come forward.
Yeah, of course.
And I haven't heard a peep from her. She's gone very quiet, but I have heard from many people still in the class who want to leave, but are too afraid. I've heard from many people that she is handling this like any narcissistic abuser does, which is to paint it her way and convince herself that she's not dead in the water, which she is. I've heard from many, many people in the industry. Congratulations for speaking out. I'm so proud of you. I mean, casting directors, producers. I've formed some new relationships in the acting world that came from speaking out. And that's been incredible to see.
And is a clear message to anyone who might be in the group who doesn't want to leave, or who feels fear around it, is that it's actually just not the end of the road, and she can't stop you from working again. If I had a penny for every time somebody said to me, oh, you're never gonna work in this town again or whatever, it's like
I know. I've achieved more since I left her class than in the whole time I was there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not only in my career, but in my life.
Yes.
And I mean, that's the scariest thing about leaving, is that you have been brainwashed and told for so long that you will have nothing without that person, that your life will be over. And you believe it because you're so weakened by that point. By the point that I left, I was not on speaking terms with my family. I had no money. I was physically weak. I was in so much confusion from the abuse that I didn't know which way was up or down. But I knew one thing, and that was, anything is better than this.
Yeah.
Even death. And I speak about that in the article. I risked everything to leave. And everything was waiting for me on the other side of that. My life bounced back, it flourished, it blossomed, and I'm back in the light. So I'm really grateful to myself. Like Snoop Dogg says, I'd like to thank me. I'd like to thank myself. I am, because no one could have gotten me out of that situation but me. Just like you're saying, you have had to go through this alone. I had to walk through that fire alone. And I had tried to leave several times in the past. But if she can get you face to face, just like, I'm not going to talk too much about Scientology, but it's within that. If they can get you face to face,
they can get you.
They can get you back in. So my escape was quarantine, when the theater shut, and she literally couldn't get me face to face. I saw my escape route and I took it.
So that's so interesting, because when you and I met, you had just come out of it. But I obviously didn't know that. And it was quite a long time before I knew any of this stuff.
Right.
And I just think it's kind of funny, because, like, you know, I'm obsessed with cults.
I know. I know.
I just think it's funny because I think I probably knew. Do you know what I mean? Like, why, like, all of a sudden I was like, why am I obsessed with this weird girl? You just, you know, when you know a bitch is going through something, like, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is it like, I've been that one as well. I remember when I met my friend Haley, she was like, okay, you want to go get dinner?
She's like, tell me things. Go.
Yeah, let's talk. But it's interesting because also when you met Will, you had come out of it, and it took you a really long time to be able to share with him what you'd been through, which is so fascinating, because it is so scary to me to think of getting into a relationship with somebody in that way, like getting engaged and getting married, and having this secret, which is not really a secret, it's more just a woo.
It's a secret. I mean, it was a secret for a long time in my life.
I know, it sounds so horrid when you say, like, you kept a secret from Will. That's not what I'm saying. It's like a wound that was so bad that you couldn't even bear to share it with, like, the person that you're committing to spend the rest of your life with. And the reason why I say that is because I think it speaks to how terrifying it is to leave and to speak out. If you'll even keep it from your family, your husband, your friends, your loved ones, this is how powerful these people are. This is how well practiced Gloria is, and many people like her, at doing what they do. And that's why they have to have you face to face, and that's why they alienate you from everyone in your life, because they can only control you if they turn you against everyone else and isolate you.
That's right.
And it's a classic abuser move.
That's right.
Everyone around you, it's
the enemy.
Us and them.
Yeah,
it's us and them
completely.
And they'll do that to you.
Oh yeah.
And that goes from people like boyfriends I've had in the past who are kind of like mildly abusive. I don't want to undermine, but there are definitely layers of this and there are levels of it. And, you know, I've been in coercive control situations, but not to the degree that you have. And even the people at the bottom of the ladder, the mild abusers,
right,
use the same tactics.
Yeah.
It's just they haven't collected so many and they haven't done it in this mass way. And we all know, if we've learned anything from the last few years, is like when the masses are convinced of something, and then when the masses are on the same page, our reality shifts.
That's right.
And that must have also been really interesting in COVID for you, because obviously here you are having your reality shifted again, and you're being told what you can and can't do, and at the same time you're trying to break out of that pattern, and that is a tough time to try and deprogram yourself from what the government is now putting you through, and the world is putting you through at the same time. That must have been very challenging.
It was interesting because everything was mirroring itself outwardly in society, and then inwardly with my situation personally. What you're saying is really important and spot on. The isolation is the key to the abuse. That's the only way that they can do it. That's why she's a one teacher policy. You're not allowed to study with any other teacher while you're there. I'll just speak for myself, but this is true for countless other people that went on the record and that did not go on the record and that are still there. You are poisoned against your mother. Mostly it tends to be the mother that the problem lies with, but family in general, and also from each other. So in class, in that high control group, you are not allowed to speak with each other about anything. And if you do, if you know something, say you told me, I went out with a guy last night and it was really fun and I stayed up till 5 a.m. and we had a great time and I can't wait to see him again. And then you came into class and you weren't listening to the direction that was being given to you and you did a bad scene, right? I know why you did a bad scene, quote unquote. So it's my responsibility to go to Gloria and tell her what I know about what you did last night. And if I don't, I've committed a crime. And I have to make amends for that crime. And I'm against her and I'm against the class and I'm against you ultimately, because I'm not, quote unquote, helping you as your friend by letting Gloria know what I know. So it's all built on crimes, committing crimes and shame, crimes and shame. And that's Scientology. So
that's a dictatorship. That's how every successful dictatorship works. If you see something, say something.
That if you see something, say something. That's right. And so that became isolating within the class, because I had friends in the class, but they weren't really friends because we weren't really talking. And that created a space where a lot of people could do a lot of shit and it never be talked about because the women weren't talking to each other. And there's a point on your list there that I think I'm willing to talk about today. That was a huge example of that really affected me. And so when quarantine happened and our classes went to Zoom, that started to shift because people started texting during class and talking to each other. And when she would be hammering in on somebody, what's called handling them for a crime they had committed or whatever, people were texting each other going, holy shit, what the fuck? Is this normal? Are you seeing what I'm seeing? And all of a sudden, the conversation opened up during class, when before our phones were away, they were in a basket, nobody was speaking. And then after class or rehearsals, whatever, everybody would be too afraid to tell each other the way they were feeling because they didn't want to get tattled on, in trouble, handled. And so it turned you against each other. Your only lifeline was Gloria.
I noticed that you in the notes use the word handled.
Yeah.
that's something that I feel like I've heard in Scientology as well, when people get handled.
Yeah.
Okay, so she used, because she's a Scientologist,
Right.
and so she's obviously used a lot of what she's learned.
It's called tech. Yeah.
Okay.
She uses
what does that mean? Like technique or technology, or what does it mean?
It's the technology, it's the lingo, it's the vocabulary, the language of that organization is called tech. And she used a lot of tech constantly, while at the same time always claiming that she doesn't teach Scientology. Not everyone in the class was a Scientologist, but a handful are, including me. I'm not anymore, but I was. And you're getting it whether you realize it or not. And so,
of course, yeah, you may not know that you're a Scientologist, but you are.
but you're in it, baby. It was a perfect storm for me of being able to escape and recover and get my life back, because like I said, the theater shut down, so she couldn't physically get me. I had already been trying to leave for years, and I had done so twice, and it hadn't worked out for me. And then the stalker happened to me in October, right before. So it was all overlapping. So the stalker happened. Yeah. It was a near-death experience for me. It woke me up to going, I have fucking got to get out of here. But I still wasn't brave enough. It took me all that time from October. And then January is when I met Will.
Yeah.
And January, February, March is when COVID started and the lockdown happened. And I left in April. So the buildup of me gaining my confidence and my courage took a lot of fucking time. And
well, there's a statistic that it takes women about 2.5 years to leave a relationship. Yeah. They know that they want to leave, but it takes about 2.5 years.
Yeah. And I have friends still in that class. I mean, I call them friends, but we haven't spoken since I left, because that's what happens. You're not allowed to speak to people once they leave. They have told me multiple times, and they've had these conversations with many of us that have left, that they are planning on leaving, and then they shrink back and they fall back in and they just can't do it. It's like trying to get up a big hill, and you get some steam and you get halfway up and then you just slide back down. And it hurts to see them still there, because I know how they feel about it. And they're sacrificing their precious life.
Well, you know what they've gone through. I'm going to bring you back to what you're saying, which we were back on talking about how abusers and Gloria specifically isolated the women. She wants to be the, for lack of a better expression, the leading lady in all of your lives. And she isolates you as a way of controlling you, not just in your life, but obviously she teaches it to you in the group. That's where she really drills those lessons into you, so that it's probably then much easier for it to trickle out into your life once she's got you in the system of doing it with the people that you're with every day.
That's another thing about abuse, is that once you abuse the person and they're in that brainwash cycle, you don't have to really do anything anymore, because then they will go out as little robots and do it everywhere.
Yeah. So there was a situation that occurred, that was able to occur because of the lack of communication between the women in the group.
Yeah, something happened to me personally that supports what I said. So in the high control group, there was a rule that you weren't allowed to be romantically involved with anybody in the group, which many people were anyway, and still are. But I fell in love with somebody in the group. We fell in love with each other. And at one point he was asking me, we would leave together and we would do this thing, and we would be together and leave the group. And we both wavered back and forth with how we felt about it. And ultimately I chose to stay in the group. Come to find out, he was sexually involved with many women in the class. He's one of the people that is harassing me at this point, because he's still in.
Oh, wow, he is.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, he's like, I know why you're doing this. I know why you spoke out. I'm thinking, what the fuck does that mean? Trying to make it about himself, I guess. But yeah.
That doesn't sound like a male actor thing to do.
No, not at all. But when girls started talking, we started putting pieces together, which we hadn't for a long time because we weren't speaking, because that was the environment we were in. So
that was the law.
And at the time, it was interesting. I was getting clues, like a girl in the dressing room. He had given me an STD at one point, and I saw.
He sounds like a dream.
He sounds like just a winner. He's just a winner, you know. He's just a great catch. But he had given me an STD, and I knew the physical symptoms. I'd been through them. I handled it. And then this other girl had those same physical symptoms around that time. And I just said to her,
when a bitch knows, when you know, you know. I'm sorry.
I did know. And I gently said to her, because I really love her. I still care about her. She's still in the group. She was like, oh, I have this weird rash. And she was trying to justify it or whatever. Or maybe she really didn't know. And I said to her gently, I said, that is da da da, and you need to go get that handled, because I know what that is. I've had that. So it was things like that we've had a whole episode on red flags. That hello, red flag, hello. Yeah. But at the time, you know,
you were so in the habit of seeing red flags and
ignoring them,
being like,
that's
oh,
right.
Great. Oh, that's a sign of something I should go towards.
That's right. I couldn't have done something with a red flag if you had fucking wrapped it around my body. It just wasn't going to happen. Everything in an abusive situation is built on ignoring red flags. You're not alive. You're in a living hell, and you don't know who you are. You don't trust yourself. You just, I can't even explain it. I have the feeling running through my body right now of being in that place. And you can't even put it.
Is it disassociative?
It's a complete disassociation of yourself and your world and everything in it. It got to the point where I couldn't get out of bed. I was in physical pain from the depression. I would get up in the morning and I wouldn't even open my eyes yet, and the pain would be there, and I would be crying with my eyes closed. And I remember,
and this is all made possible by the environment in Gloria's acting group, like high control group situations. I mean, look at any of like the cults I'm obsessed with. It's made possible by frightening people and punishing them
into silence,
and out of establishing real and meaningful relationships with the people who are basically your world and your life.
That's right.
At that point, this is a very lonely, cold, dark, scary place to be in.
It's terrifying. There's no words for it. There are no words. It's beyond depression. It's beyond fear. It's a place where
it's death.
It is death. It is death. It's something that came out of the environment that was created. And there are more stories like that are ongoing. And I do really think it has shifted because people have been able to talk during lockdown and start to put the pieces together. And when I met Will, I knew that I couldn't be with him and stay there, because he was somebody that was truth and life and light and doesn't suffer fools and had questions. And I knew that I couldn't start a truthful relationship in my life until I left there. And so he was a big catalyst for me.
Yeah.
And when I left, it took me a year, because here's what happens after you leave an abusive situation. You are still defending the abuser.
Of course, yeah.
Which I did for a year. It took me a solid year of defending Gloria, of thinking that there was something wrong with me, because you're told all those things. If you leave, it's because you couldn't cut it. You're not a real actress. You're never going to book a job, blah, blah, blah. You failed. Yeah. You're a loser, all that kind of shit. And I thought that for a year afterwards. And then I remember one day he was on the phone with his stepdad, and he was saying, yeah, the Scientology building is close by. I can't believe I drive by it every day. It really freaks me out. And I was in the kitchen and I was shaking because I was so angry, because I still thought that I still was defending them. And I said to him, it really upsets me what you said about Scientology. And I just need you to know that I'm a Scientologist, and I've spent a lot of time there at the Celebrity Center, and I've met some really great people there. And he said, okay. He said, I'm so sorry. I would never mean to offend you or hurt you or make you feel sad like that. And I said, I'd like you to learn more about it so that you can see how great it is. And he said, okay. He said, yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to. Of course. And he said, and in return, I'd like you to watch what I've watched and learn what I've learned. And if it's bullshit, you can tell me that it's bullshit, but at least we're on the same page. And I said, okay, fine. So I started to watch. And this is why in Scientology, you're never allowed to watch anything. You're never allowed to, because again, why? If you have a crime and you don't come forward with it, that's bad. And you have to go work on yourself by going to more courses. So nobody wants to come forward and say that they have a question like, excuse me, why are you holding people against their will? Why did that woman die in one of your buildings instead of being taken to the hospital like I saw in that documentary? Why are you taking this money for, why? If you have those questions, there's something wrong with you. So you don't want to go there. So you don't watch anything and you don't see it, because if you see it, you have to say it. So you keep yourself in the dark, which I had done. And when he said that, I started to open my eyes, and it changed everything for me. But that took me a year of being out for that to happen.
I remember being so impressed by how he handled that.
Yeah.
Because I would have freaked. If I was married to somebody and they were like, oh, by the way, I'm a Scientologist, I'd be like, what the fuck?
No, it's crazy.
Like, he
Absolutely
loves you
crazy.
so much. And he obviously, he just handled it so well. Like, he handled it so like smart.
Yeah.
And he obviously knows you and knew you at that time, like, well, very well, to know that you would kind of rise to the bait of like, will you watch this if I watch this? You know?
Yeah.
Because he could have got like so emotional, so crazy, been like, you fucking lied to me. How, like, I feel like a lot of people would have freaked out, but he handled it so well. I'm always so impressed by that.
He's been the perfect partner to help me recover and heal and get my head back on straight again. He's been the perfect partner. He's so supportive. He's so smart. He's just so unconditional. And that's what I needed.
And he questions things.
He questions everything.
He's a questioner. So I think that's the type of energy that you needed to be around, while also being really loved and supported at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't want to make it about this, but there is sort of, as I sit here and look through these notes, just so people who are watching know I'm not just texting on my phone. My notes are on there. There is a really strange sort of libidinal kind of undertone to a lot of the abuse, which is very common in cult situations, very, very common technique that is used by abusers, cult leaders, whatever you want to call them. And I'm just going to list a couple of them out that to me feel like very weirdly like libidinal and like erotic, but in this like a very fucked up and dark way.
Mm-hmm.
Gloria kind of preaches that being gay is a choice, and that it's some kind of anger towards your parents, that it's some kind of rebellion and kind of fuck you to your parents,
right?
As if being gay is some big punishment to somebody else,
right?
And one of your classmates there,
right,
a male, is gay, but he's in the closet, and one of Gloria's other top officers, who is a female, has feelings for this man, or had feelings for this man, and Gloria made her go over to his house and seduce him and have sex with him to try and make him straight, or see that he's straight. So that is a weird sort of proxy sexual abuse in my mind. I see that as a sexual abuse of two people, in fact. Gloria had 5 women line up and slap you in the face as hard as they could.
Yes, she's done that to many people.
Because you weren't reacting in a way. Weirdly erotic. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. There would also be instances where if I remember once, she was really angry at me in front of the whole cast of a play, and we were about to go on stage, and she said that the play wouldn't go on that night unless I got down on my knees and begged for forgiveness.
Yes.
And me and another girl did that on the curb, because she was threatening to leave the theater. And
she made you crawl and beg.
She made me crawl in another instance, in front of an open class, which I don't know what new student would want to join a class where they see an actor being forced to crawl on the floor and beg for forgiveness, but I don't know how anyone in their right mind would be interested in
they're not in
what she offers. Right. I guess they're not in their right mind. That's right. But yeah, there was crawling, there was slapping, there was hitting, there was hair pulling, there was scratching.
I don't know, there's just this weird like energy towards the women, the stuff she makes you do to each other, the way she like segregates you, the physical stuff, the scratching, the hair pulling, the making women stand up in a dress and you guys all rate their bodies and how they look, and all of that stuff. It's very kind of, I don't know, it's very like libidinal.
Yeah, something very strange going on there. And I do have to say the way that she treats men and women in her class is completely different. Men are allowed to get away with murder, and the women, it's been an ongoing joke for a long time between everyone there. Like, you see a man and he's not even getting reprimanded, and then you're just like, if I did that, I would have been fucking killed. But he's just like, oh, isn't he sweet and funny or whatever. And it also, it showed itself when several women, this happened pretty commonly, but several women at one point came forward to speak about the way men were treating them in rehearsals. It wasn't okay. It wasn't okay for them. And they weren't comfortable with it. And she didn't do anything. And I mean, several women like had the courage to compose an email and come forward and ask her for help. And it didn't seem to happen. They never seemed to get handled on it. And yet women left, right, and center were accused of hitting on the men in class.
You know, it's interesting. It's not just the abuse that you endure, it's watching other people get abused as well, which is really traumatizing in itself. I mean, you don't have to be getting abused, but watching somebody get abused is traumatizing alone, let alone what she's, doing to all of you. Well, not you anymore, but was doing and is continuing to do to other people.
That's the other thing about the environment of a high control group, is that you're looking to your right and your left and you're going, am I the only one that thinks this is fucked up? But everybody else seems to be okay with it. So then you think you're the crazy one. And you think you're the one that needs help. And obviously this must be okay because everybody else seems okay with it. And they're all thinking the same thing. And I've spoken with several women that came forward to speak on the record. And they said, the reason I spoke on the record was because of my guilt for staying silent when I should have spoken up. And I allowed that person to get punched or hit or yelled at like that, or all this shit that I saw. And I said nothing. And I treated it like it was normal. And I have to live with that guilt every day. And so you fucking bet I'm going to speak on the record if I'm asked.
You've heard the expression bystander apathy. Yeah. So it's like that, but so much more twisty, because there's it's not just like a natural phenomena of bystander apathy. Is like if you see somebody getting beaten to death and a bunch of people just stand around and don't do anything,
which they do, which you see all the time.
Yeah, it's a very common, natural thing to happen. Most people will kind of click into bystander apathy when in a situation like that. It's a very small percentage of people who won't naturally anyway.
Right.
Then you add into that the abuse and the fear of what would happen to you if you did respond.
Yeah.
Obviously you don't need anyone to sit and say to you like, oh, and it's not helpful to say like, don't feel guilty about it. You're going to feel how you're going to feel, but you were a victim in that situation too, and it would have been like saying, quick, speak Chinese. It just wasn't possible for you at that time. And
no, I did the best I could with where I was at, and we all did. And they're doing the best they can right now with where they're at, if they're still in that class, in that group. And I have a lot of empathy for that, having come out of it. That people who haven't experienced a narcissistic abuser or something like this, there's not a lot of empathy. There's not a lot of empathy in the press, in the news, and between people. I hear all kinds of horrible things said to rape survivors, to sexual, any kind of abuse. You hear just awful like heartless reactions from people. That's okay for them, because if you're lacking in that humanity and that empathy, that's on you, and no one can help you with that. But having come through this, I can't look at those people that are still there and call them idiots or think down on them, because I know how life and death that was for me. And I hope that they have the gift of reclaiming their life, because they're worth it. And if these conversations can help someone right now who's maybe in the same kind of thing, it could be with a spouse, it could be with a family member. There's narcissistic abusers in all walks of life. It doesn't have to be in a group setting. You and I have talked about this before. It can be in a relationship. You've dealt with it in partners.
My dad was terribly abused by his wife, physically, emotionally, financially, and there are multiple people in my family who, funnily enough, majority of them are men, who have had abusive partners, female partners. And the kind of, why don't you just leave? It could only be said by somebody that hasn't experienced it. It's when somebody says that, it's really clear to me that they've just got absolutely no concept of it, and have never experienced it. Their lives have never been touched by it, because it's just not that simple. But also it's the lack of empathy I do find really jarring.
Yeah, me too.
And I think it's really interesting in culture how we kind of, you know, the Bad Vegan show that we watched.
Yeah.
Did you watch that?
I did watch it, yeah.
I felt really sorry for that woman because she was clearly being coercively controlled. But, you know, again and again and again, we see in the media portrayals of people who are being abused, and while they're not being strangled or raped or having cigarettes put out on them, they're being abused so badly that they are harming themselves or harming other people. We as a society don't really have a lot of empathy or time for that, which I don't think will ever change particularly.
No.
I think it could ease, but I think it's just human nature. I think some people are going to be empathetic towards things and some people aren't.
Yeah.
And I think that the key is these conversations. And I think that that's why it's so brilliant that you and your friends and colleagues did speak up, and that you're willing to continue talking about it. Because really it's the only way to help.
Yeah.
You can't help in any other way. Like you said, you can't say to somebody, oh no, like you need to leave.
No, that
like,
makes them run deeper into it. That's what my family tried to do. And that's why I cut them off for 3 years. I didn't speak to my mother for 3 years because she tried to help me. Yeah. That part's very painful. That's the painful part to me, is that I allowed that and made my family the enemy. But we're making up for it now, because that makes me emotional of all the things. I get that time back with them, and that's precious fucking time with your loved ones. And that's what abuse robs you of. Yes. Not just the time you spend with the abuser, but then the aftermath of reclaiming yourself takes time. It takes a lot of time, and it's really a messy process. And you have days where you're just like, who am I? Like, who am I? I spent so long not connected to myself and totally disassociating to survive. And so coming back into my body, coming back into my own opinions. What are my opinions? I don't even know. So it's a really brilliant time of life for me right now, where I get to discover who's under all that stuff from the last decade. And it's a rebirth. It's an absolute rebirth. And it's a joy. It's just a joy. It's not fucking easy, but I wake up every day now, instead of waking up in tears and wishing I were dead, now I wake up with a smile on my face and gratitude on my lips for freedom and truth. It's a totally different life. And that's why my heart goes out to anybody who's not that far along on the path. You can get there. You can do it. Life does not end when you leave that person or that situation. Life begins. Life begins. And the only reason you're in a situation where you're willing to give your power away to somebody like that is because you are too afraid to take responsibility for your own power in your life. And when you're ready, you'll leave. The day will come, I hope, for everybody suffering under the hands of an abuser. I hope your day comes in this lifetime, because it is so fucking beautiful. and it's worth it. It's worth all the mess. Just you're not alone. That's the most important thing. You are not alone. This is real. You are not crazy. Go look it up. Start to learn about this. Don't hide your head from the red flags. Don't turn away from what's out there, from the truth of it. Look at it. Look at it. There are reasons you feel this way. There are strategies that these abusers use. They are all the same strategy. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter if it's the leader of a nation or your boyfriend. Narcissistic abusers are a specific type of animal. And when you start to learn about it, you can start to take responsibility for where you're at.
I love that. I love that that's your energy, because I think, you know how I am. I cannot with like victim-y stuff. I'm just like,
this is not about being a victim. I don't use the word victim to describe this, because this is not what that is.
I mean, some people, listen,
I know that.
Some people are like, of course you know, some people are fucking victims. Okay, kids, the elderly, you know, physically compromised, mentally compromised people who are like, people are victims of situations. You are a victim of this terrible woman.
Right.
I am a victim of loss, but as do you, don't walk around feeling like a victim, living like a victim, speaking from the perspective of a victim. And I think that for both of us, what is really, really important is responsibility and accountability. And it is amazing in life what changes when you start to really take responsibility for yourself, for the things you say, for the choices you make, for your actions. And it can begin in just really the tiniest ways, and in the way that the abuse begins in these tiny ways that then grows and grows and ripples through your life, so can the change to get you out of it and get you away from it. And I think that it's really encouraging and empowering that you use those words, taking responsibility. Because you have to, because as you said, nobody's going to walk you through it. There is no one else that can walk you through that fire. Nobody. Nobody will guide you. Nobody will be beside you. Nobody will be behind you. But you, when you walk through it, everyone and your life and the world is waiting on the other side.
That's right.
And that's the point. And that's what I'm hearing from you. Now, we've been talking for a while, and this conversation is, I think, gonna kind of spread out into like lots of different little chats, probably through this season. I envision this season as kind of working through a lot of the stuff that you and I have talked about in regard to your experience in the high control group, and the ways that we can kind of trickle that information down into different episodes, different chats, and different situations that apply to like everyone who isn't in a narcissistic, abusive,
I'm telling you, this might
group.
Be your next door neighbor. It might be your boyfriend or girlfriend. It might be your brother or sister. It might be a parent, but it exists.
It might be something you're reading. It might be a place. It's so crazy that the ways in which, you know, like my sister had to secretly turn off the news on my mum's iPad because it was making her completely fucking like nuts. I found this out in quarantine. My sister had to like break into my mum's iPad and switch off the news alerts.
Wow.
And apparently it was like night and day. My mum didn't even notice that they weren't on, but because she was sitting there and this information was she was becoming a crazy person.
Yeah.
So it's like, doesn't always have to be like this like huge, you know, thing.
Right. Exactly.
it's the little ways that things can get the hooks in you.
We are all susceptible. We are all susceptible. And that's the other thing, like you were saying about the people who say, why didn't you leave? They are in a form of denial, thinking that they are exempt from experiencing this. But every human in their lifetime is susceptible and will go through some form of whatever we're talking about.
Whatever it's hard
Yeah.
to kind of say a word that is,
I know I can't think of a word
everything
for it.
from like the tiny thing up to something that like yourself, and then people who've been through even like crazier shit.
Yeah,
this is not really a word to encompass all of it, but I guess
we are susceptible, which is why we have to be clear about who we are, clear about our boundaries, and careful. Ask questions, responsible, take responsibility for yourself, ask questions, see what's there, look at red flags, see the signs, ask, and be willing to see. What is that quote? There are none so blind as those who will not see.
That hurts my brain. There is none so blind as those who will not see.
You getting it? You putting that together?
Just like touching my eyes. So I'm like,
you unpacking that? Are you unpacking that? Anyway, enough about me. What about you?
No. I think, we've just like listeners, we're back, and
that's all we know.
We're diving right in.
We're here. We're doing it.
We're here. We're not gonna fluff you. We're gonna just go straight in there with the nitty gritty. So sorry if this wasn't the light breezy welcome back that you're expecting, but this is what we're dealing with.
This is life, guys. This is this is it. This is where we're at.
And this is what Lucy's been dealing with for a long time, and what we've been alluding to for a while, and unable for multiple reasons to talk about. And now she is able to, and willing to, and strong enough and brave enough to do that. And I'm really proud of you. I'm really happy to sit here and listen. We can talk about it as much as you want or as little as you want. I don't want to have I don't want this to be like a trauma wank, it's or whatever you're like. If you want to chat about it, great. If you don't, no pressure from myself or the listeners. I'm speaking for them.
I want to chat about it. I want to read the article, which we didn't even get to. And I would think that the response to us talking about this will be pretty amazing, because I think it's just helpful stuff. You and I have always felt this way about having conversations about the way things really are. We're in it together, and this is how we lift each other up, is by opening our mouths and saying it the way we see it.
Truth. It's at the end of the day, it all comes down to just sort of telling the truth, which is just like the most powerful thing. Telling the truth to yourself and telling the truth to the world is the most powerful thing. Your truth might not be the same as other people's.
No,
but
it doesn't mean that.
The point is that but the point is that you're living with truth, and that as your intention. I think it will be great to go through the article next week. As you said, like a few times, it made you you laugh a little bit when you read it now. And I have to admit, I laughed when I read it the second and third time, because obviously I know what your experience has been. So there were points in the article where I was just like, why is it being read this way? Why is the journalist expressing it in this way? Why is this what's been cherry picked from the story? Why has it been constructed like this? I mean, I'm not a journalist, but I definitely had some criticisms about how the article was put together. And the lies that Gloria was obviously telling weren't really challenged. And I think it would be nice if we could challenge some of those next week.
It is interesting. There are a lot of things that she said in the article that everyone who experienced it knows are not true. And there's hard evidence to back it up that supports the truth.
There's nothing I love more than a bit of hard evidence.
So, all right. Wow. Well, I'm going to go. I don't know what I'm going to do. I got to go. No. This has been really great. I am like, my head is like floating through other realms in a weird way, because it brings it all up, and it's good. It's really good for healing, because I'm able to go in deeper and see it from a new perspective, and know without a doubt that I am not crazy. And that is something that anybody who has come through a narcissistic abuse situation has to deal with every day, is that doubt. The doubt.
Yeah. Am I crazy? Am I imagining this? Am I the one that's wrong? Yeah.
So thank you so much, Annabelle. I really love you and appreciate you. And we didn't do the news. News time. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Wait, what do we do for the news again?
Nothing.
I blocked it out my mind.
Nothing. Oh, it's been like 18 years since we did it last. We don't do anything. Remember, we have a big, like, fancy,
we have like
professional thing now. Okay, 3.
Like, God, it was terrible when we sang that song.
It got more and more terrible because you gave up hope slowly over time, and you just stopped trying. That was really heartbreaking to go through on my end. It's
Thank
so
God
sad
for producer Paul.
Yeah, thank you, producer Paul. It's so sad to be trying still when somebody else has given up already.
Okay, bitch, calm down. It's just a fucking news segment on our stupid podcast. Shut up.
3, 2, 1.
It's not world news.
We don't do that anymore.
Yes, we do. It's not world news. It's not important. Wait, don't we? What do we do?
We should have listened to an episode to see what we do. Okay, go. Just do it.
Okay, I thought we did. It's not world news. It's not important news. It's Lucy and Annabel news, and it's like and then we say that.
Okay, that
or
sounds
do we have
good.
a recording? Okay.
No idea. That sounds good though. Let's do that.
It's not world news.
It's not important news. It's
Lucy
and Annabel news. Woo-hoo.
Yeah, I feel like we have a recording. We'll find it.
What do you got for us, Annabelle Jones?
Craig David comes out of the closet.
What?
As a clairvoyant.
You idiot! You idiot! You set me up.
It says Craig David has revealed that he's a man of many talents, as he admitted to being a clairvoyant who can hear his ancestors on Tuesday. Not just on Tuesday. He said it on Tuesday. He can hear them every day.
Oh, he can hear them every day. Got it.
The singer, 41, spoke about his talents for the first time after he confessed he had been in the closet about his psychic abilities for some years. In an interview with Fern Cotton for her Happy Place podcast,
Love
Craig
Fern Cotton.
explained, cute, Craig explained, I'm super empathetic, super sensitive, and super psychic, which I feel very liberated to say now.
Okay.
My ears ring off like crazy, and I know there's a guide or some ancestor trying to come through, and I'm tuning in. And the article is accompanied by him with a picture. He's standing without his shoes on, and he's next to a big rock, which I think probably is a big rose quartz that he's had imported into his garden or something. And he's standing there, and he's got his hand on it, and I think he's channeling messages from the ancestors. So,
wow.
Craig David, all over your boot.
I'm walking away from the troubles in my life. I'm walking away. Oh,
I cannot wait.
Find a better day.
I want a Craig David album about his spiritual path and his like clairvoyancy and like all of that.
I want an appointment with Craig David to get a reading. This is my question. Is he offering readings? Is he doing this professionally? Is this a side gig for him? Where can I sign up?
We'll find out more and get back to you.
Please do, because I want to get one for everyone I know for Christmas.
I don't think that's going to be affordable, but okay.
Well,
oh, he does have a book you can buy. It's a self-help book, and it's called What's Your Vibe?
I don't know if I need self-help from Craig David. I just want him to call my dead grandma.
But you're fine with him to speak to dead people on your behalf.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just don't need him to tell me like to drink more water or some bullshit.
As we all know, you only drink water if it's got lemon in it. Otherwise, it doesn't even work.
I know. This is shit water. Oh my God, that's so terrible.
What?
I just said that. There's plenty of people in the world that aren't fortunate enough to have water, and here we are fucking
well, here you are with a plastic bottle. I'm trying not to judge you, but I'm feeling very judgy. You need to get yourself a Hydro Flask, babe.
Not only do I have a plastic bottle in my hand, but this came from a 12-pack in the fridge.
Lucy! Oh my God.
Anyway, my news. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Okay, so this bitch faked her kidnapping, and now she's getting 18 months in prison for kidnapping herself.
Oh my God, that's so dumb. Who?
Only in California did this happen. She's a mother of two. She was sentenced to 18 months in prison for faking her own kidnapping so she could go back to a former boyfriend, which led to a 3-week multi-state search before she resurfaced.
What are the charges? Why? How can you send someone to prison for faking your own kidnapping?
She pled guilty to staging her abduction and lying to the FBI about it. She's required.
Oh, okay, that's bad.
Yeah, she came up with a whole story of who abducted her and all this shit.
I thought she just disappeared and everyone was like, okay, now you have to go to jail about it.
No, it was a whole thing. She has to pay more than $300,000. Wow, she's actually going to jail.
What's wrong with this boyfriend that she had to fake a kidnapping in order to go back to him?
I don't understand that part of it. That part doesn't track for me.
This feels incomplete. I can't wait to watch the Netflix documentary that there will absolutely be about this.
Yeah, please bring it out so we can have answers, because they say the judge says that she did not consider the seriousness of the sheer number of people who were impacted by this. That included law enforcement who searched for her, the community that believed her for 4 years. She told this lie for 4 years. What? And those who lived in fear because of her fake story about being abducted by 2 Hispanic women, and the Latino community that was falsely viewed with suspicion. This white woman accusing other women of things they
abducting
did not do.
her.
Yeah. So
not sure that I feel that I'm comfortable with her going to prison about it. I think that a fine and maybe some therapy and like a class teaching her about like how to be a citizen makes more sense than putting her in jail. But I guess it's America, and America loves to put people in jail, so she'll probably just get one of those like foot bracelet things.
It said they ordered her to serve, Lindsay Lohan style. Man, lying never pays, guys. Lying never pays.
And that's the tea.
Anyway. Wow.
All right.
I feel like Craig David would have known that already. He would have known, because
it's weird that the ancestors didn't tell him about that, but
I know. Come on, Craig. Way to help the cops.
Okay. So well, go and have a cup of tea and a rest and be kind to yourself today. I think you might be thinking lots of thoughts after this, but I know you keep saying it to everyone else, but I'm going to say it to you. You're not crazy. You're not imagining things. You haven't done anything wrong. And Gloria cannot fucking touch you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Enjoy your bean patch in the backyard.
I always enjoy my bean patch, darling.
You said you're going to be growing food. What are you going to plant first? And we didn't even get to the bit about your garden and the weeds and that. You want to go into it?
No, I don't. We can save
we'll save that for next time. That'll be a strong opener. You can get a word in edgewise before we go full tilt into the article again next week.
No. The weeds aren't going anywhere, so don't worry. We've got plenty of time to talk about it. Not the season for growing food right now. I am going to try to defy the odds. I've bought a tiny little greenhouse cupboard, and I am going to try and grow spinach and lettuce in the winter. My mum says that can't be done. I think she's wrong. I've watched videos on YouTube. Why go to the shops and buy it when I can just have a cupboard in my garden where it grows and just go to the garden and eat it from the garden?
I love it.
We'll see if it works. It might not work.
Please keep us posted with the riveting updates.
I will.
I believe in you.
Really interesting.
I believe in you. You're going to do this.
I believe in you too.
Love you.
All right, babe. Love you. Have a good one.
Love you lots. Bye.
Bye.